Hey guys, just back with another C# tutorial. So I'm just in Writer. So I just wanted to show you guys, we'll be moving on to TextBox controls and variables. So just to show you guys, if you're having this problem and it says project references are missing in Writer, you have to click this button at the top, rebuild something. I think it says project solutions or something. My camera icon's in front of it, so just click that. Let it like download and update. Then this, I think it's a glitch, or you just have to download it. Okay, so now we got the window looking a bit better. Oh, I forgot to change the theme. That's okay. So the theme for my computer is still in high contrast. So let's just continue on. Let's continue on with processing data. So processing data, we'll move on to reading input with TextBox controls. Alright, so basically the text box, do we not call a text box already? I think we did use a text box. It's a dialog box, I believe. Actually, no, I lied. That's different. Okay, so a text box is a way to get input from the user. So if you know, like C, we have scanf. With Java, we have other methods. In Python, we have input. So basically, it gets input from the user. So basically, in so in Java, it's been a while, but you have, since I've taken input in Java, but you have to create a scanner object. In Java, to take input, you need to import java.util, import, and then create a scanner object. Initialize a scanner object, and then call .scan.nextLine and all that. So that's pretty much the way to read input in Java. In C#, one way to read input, at least from a GUI, is from using a text box. So we'll use a text box. So here's our code. Nothing right now. We just have our using. Packages and stuff, namespaces and all that. Basically namespaces and those classes. So now we will talk about text box controls. So basically a lot of apps require, well, obviously you need to take data from the user. So the data entered by the user will then be used, of course, in some way. For example, let's say you have the user entering their data for a login page for some app, like a banking app or whatever, social media app, or some kind of medical app or something. They need to input their health numbers and all that. So let's say we have that. So a text box is basically just, it's a box. You enter text and it saves the text. So that's a way, basically the compiler can read all that stuff. So text box is a control. So a text box, so basically one of the primary controls that you will use to get data from the user is in the text box control. So one of the primary controls that you will use to get data from the user is a text box control. So text box control appears as a rectangular area on a form. When the application is running, the user can type text into a text box control. program can then retrieve the text that the user entered and use the text in any necessary operations. So in the toolbox, so we know how to get to the toolbox, so we go to the designer tab, so I'm back on the screen. So we just need to find the toolbox. Okay, so in Writer it's on the right side, I think. Designer toolbox, so it's called designer toolbox in Writer. So we have so in the common controls, so it's a little bit different in Writer. So we have basically systems.windows.forms. These are basically the common controls. Once again, if you want more controls, you have to click on Manage Components. Systems, well, if you want .NET controls, then we have to click .NET. What is this? So these are different. These are different libraries: GAC local and NUGET That's ALL. Oh, so that's all libraries. Okay, so we want .NET default. Pretty much. I think you can find them in both, but we'll just go with .NET default. We'll go with not system, those are more advanced things. We'll be working with those later on probably, so we'll go with system.windows forms. So there we go, we got all kinds of controls here. We want a text box, so we'll go to T. Text box is already highlighted or checked, selected, whatever. We'll just hit cancel in that case. So then we'll go to text box right here. Double click that. Then I'll click the form and the text box will appear. Sorry, just trying to get the bounding box up here. It keeps disappearing. Okay, so we got our text box. Does that get bigger? No. There we go. Okay, so we basically, I think, okay, great. We got our event handler for text change. Okay, we'll talk about that in a sec. I'll just actually undo that. Cancel. Okay, let's just delete that. Designer. Okay, so let's just talk about text boxes a little bit more. So basically, we double click the tool, the text box appeared, then we click the form for it to show up. So when you create text box controls, they're automatically given default names such as text box 1, text box 2. We've talked about that. So in this case, it's text box 1. Alright, so what happened here? So we have names at the top. Okay, so it's this one here, one of those tabs. Both of them are the same, it seems. Okay, so it's one of those tabs, second from the left, or third from the left. So pick one of those, the names at the top. Whoops, so click the text box. Then we got text box 1. So text box 1. So we can just change it to text box. So click the properties, highlight that, whoops, no, okay, so it deleted it if I delete it, so then we'll just go with text box camel cased. Okay, so we got our text box. Alright, so when the user types into a text box control, the text is stored in the control's text property. In code, if you want to retrieve the data that has been typed into a text box, you simply retrieve the contents of the control's text property. So we'll do some more examples of this. We'll do an example of this. So we have just a note here. When you retrieve the contents when you retrieve the contents of the text property, you always get a string. So any operation that can be performed on a string can be performed on a controls text property, so we can convert those to different numbers, which we will. We can convert a string using a toString method, or toString function. I think it's called a method in C# as well, like Java. So this is very similar to Java. It's almost exactly the same, which is interesting. Microsoft chose to design C# around Java. I believe it came out first. I might be wrong. I believe Java came out first, but I might be wrong about that, because we didn't learn about the dates that C# came out. Actually, sorry, just hit the mic. I might have hit the mic by accident. You might have heard that. Apologize for that. So let's just let me just type that out. So let me just see on Google. Was Java created before C#? Yeah, so Java is older than C#. Released in 1995 by the team led by James Gosling at Sun Microsystems. So when was C# created? 2000, so 5 years later it was created. So it's pretty much based right off. So C# is based right off Java. It's almost like right, exactly the same. So basically, it's object oriented. There's no pointers, I believe. The camel casing is different. You'll notice the methods are actually capital at the start. So there's more capitalization in C#. I think Java had it right with the camel casing. You can tell I learned Java first because or actually that's a lie, I learned it second, but I was more into it because I had more time to study it. But basically I learned C first, but Java was cool because of the camel casing. So I always kept the camel casing because Java basically uses camel casing with everything, almost all the methods and stuff. But if you notice in C#, the toString is different. So in a Java toString, we have the first T as lowercase, but in C# we have the T as uppercase, the first T. So there's some differences like that. Obviously some different methods and functions, and we got namespaces and all that, so it's it's a different framework, but a lot of similarities. Okay, so moving on, so we have let's do an example here. So we'll just have some, basically we'll just let's just have a little example here. So we could do something like this. So if we have just an example, so this is going to be out of everything because we don't have a label or a text box yet, but basically if we had a label, we could say, okay, we have output label. Hopefully y'all can see that. So we have output label dot text points to name text box dot text. So what is this doing? This is saying, okay, we have an output label. We want to call its text property by referencing the dot operator. Points to or equals name text box. So let's just say we had a text box named name text box. Let's just say we went with text box that we just created earlier, text box. That one right there. The text box dot text. So we're saying, okay, we want the labels text to point to the text box's text. So if that makes sense, we'll continue on. So basically, whatever happened here, or just talking about it a bit more, this statement assigns the value of the text box, value of the text, the name. Actually, what did I type this? No, output label dot text. Okay, so we got so basically it gets any text that has been entered by the user into the text box. control, and it displays it in the output label. So apologize for any confusion there. So all the text from the text box is being stored in the output label .text. Because they're saying, okay, well, output label .text now points to the memory location of the textbox.text, which in this case, textbox.text is holding the string, for example. So now output label.text points to the string textbox.text is holding, if that makes sense. And really, output label.text is storing that string. It's being passed. That's why I say points to, because think of this like a little arrow. It's pointing to the textbox.text, which is really a memory location, and the output label.text is pointing to that memory location. Therefore, output label is also storing that in its own memory location as well. So it's a little bit confusing. But we'll go on. We'll move on to the next part. So let's probably do a bigger example here. So let's let's actually create something now. So let's go back to the designer. So we'll have this. I think the size is locked. Is that in auto size? We said. Auto size. No. Font. Okay, let's go with font. Font. Make that bigger, please. That's not even really that big. No, does it get any bigger than that? It does, okay. It's going up really small here, like it's going up slowly. Okay, there we go. That's probably a little bit too much, so we'll go a little bit back down. 36 should be fine, so we'll go with 2 of those. Can I get make those bigger? Okay, there we go. So we got 1 text box. Okay, that's a little bit too much. Actually, that should be fine. Okay, so we got 1 text box, and we'll go with another text box. So we'll get the toolbox up. System.windows.forms. We'll click on text box again. That'll pop up. We'll go with changing the size. We'll go with text box 2 in this case. With a camel case, and then 2. Then we'll go with font. Click the ellipsis button. We'll change the size to 36. We'll try to scale it up manually. We'll then go with probably 2 labels. Label 1 and label 2. We'll just go with something like that, whatever. We'll go with a border style on that. We'll go with fixed single, so we can see it in the high contrast, or you guys can see it. So then we'll go with another text box. Nope, sorry, label. Double click label. That'll come up. Okay, we got it hidden behind here. That can happen. Can be a problem. can kind of glitch out like that. Now we got them stuck on each other. There we go. So we'll change the border style. We'll just go with the default name, so then we'll go with border style again. We'll change it to fixed single. Alright, so we got kind of a not perfect, doesn't look too bad though. Let's go with the size. Let's see if we can change the font here. So we'll go with font. No. Font. We'll go with font. We'll change the size to also 36. Nothing changed. Okay. Perfect. So let's continue on with that. Whoops, sorry, I just hit the mic by accident, apologize. So let's, whoops, I just started Visual Studio on my other screen by accident. That was a mistake. Okay, so let's go with 2 buttons then. So we'll double click the button from the toolbox. The button. So we'll get 2 of them up. Alright, perfect. So we got 2 buttons. We'll just change the size here. We'll just go with a manual, just a quick. Don't have to make it perfect, just get the concepts down here. So we have button 1 and button 2. We could probably change the font of that to make it a bit bigger. Let's go with 22, does that say? Perfect. You got font here. Change the size to 22 as well here. So button 1, button 2, label 1, label 2, text box, and text box 2. Alright, good stuff. So let's let's maybe just rename these. Let's go with text box is fine. Oh, this should be a label. This one should be a label, so let's delete that. So how did I delete that? It's a little confusing. So you have to click it, get the bounding box up, and then on the keyboard there's a delete button. It's not the backspace button, it's above the arrow keys. Hopefully you have a keyboard that has this, or it should be somewhere on your keyboard if it's not there. It's under insert beside end. Kinda in those buttons you never use, minus you may use insert once in a while. Someone's like, yeah, I use those buttons. Okay, if you use those buttons, I apologize, but I don't use those buttons. So basically, you just need to click it, get the bounding box up, click delete, wherever it is. If it's not there somewhere else, maybe you have it on a shift symbol somewhere. So just delete it, and then here we'll put another label instead. Because we just need one text, we just need to retrieve the text from one text box. We don't need to have a second text box. That should be fine. So we'll just actually go with a border style. Border style. Okay, so we'll go to fix single. Alright, so then we'll just change the font size here as well. we go 36. Alright, perfect. So label 1, label 2, label 1, label 2, label 3. Text box, button 1, button 2. Alright, so good stuff, guys. This can take a little bit, it takes a little bit of practice, obviously, using the designers. They're good to use because you may find something you don't know how to code later on, where you can just generate it in the designer and see what the code look like by just clicking. For example, we could click this to get the event handler up, and then you could say, oh, well, that's how you do it. I know how to do it. Then from then on, you can start coding it, whatever. Or you may want to put something somewhere at a spot where you can't get the code to get it. Let's say you wanted it in this random corner like that, but you wanted it a little bit far away from the sides. That's done with like a pixel or like a width or length, or sometimes a pixel size or something like similar to a pixel. I believe it's like a length or width. It's not a pixel, but it's like a length or a width dimension that could be like a random number. Like, see these numbers here? So it could be like 1154 point something, and then that could be the length, and the width could be like, or it could be a coordinate. It could be a random place where you don't know how to get, but you really need to get it there, just to see how it looks in the code. So I've done that. That's more so in Android Studio and Swift. So IO Xcode, I guess, with apps like that. Probably with React Native, which I haven't completely finished yet. That's like, we'll be going over React Native. That's the last thing we're gonna do, so don't worry. We still have to do JavaScript first. But yeah, so you'll see later on, you have to get things at certain places. Dragging them there can be helpful to learn how to get them there. For example, if you didn't know how to get this thing in line with this, button 2, in code, dragging it can help you kind of see how the code looks later on. So yeah, so let me just have a sip of my water here. Apologize for that. Alright, so let's continue on. We'll probably just leave. Actually, let's change some of the text properties here. So let's change, so let's change this label 1's text property. So we'll get the bounding box up. We'll go with text. We'll change it to enter your favorite color, whatever you want. Oh, that's gonna be too big. Let's change the font size then to something smaller. .22. Let's go with 22. Let's go with 24 then. Enter your favorite color, or I was gonna say favorite fruit. Let's go with color on this one then. Fruits are a little bit more. I noticed they make the example codes more flavorful, like more colorful. Like you can imagine the fruit there, but the color's just kind of blank. Let's just go with, yeah, we'll just go with fruit then, why not? Text is, learning code's more fun when it's fruity, right? So go with enter your favorite fruit here. Change that font one more time. In size, so we'll go with font and then size, just maybe another one up. That's fine. So enter your fave fruit. So fave, I'm just, so people who didn't understand what that means, maybe your English isn't your first language, but I just took favorite, you know the word favorite, and I just shortened it. I abbreviated it to fave. So enter your fave fruit, which just means enter your favorite fruit for those overseas. So then we'll have, basically here we'll change the label to as well. So we'll click it, get the bounding box up, then we'll click the text property. So then we'll change the text property to you said or you typed. Okay, so that should be all fine. So we have text box, label 1, label 2, label 3, button 1, button 2. Okay, let's go with button 1's text property. So button 1's text property, let's change that to, so let's get the bounding box up, we'll click it, then we'll get, let's click it, then we'll click the text property. This is might have to split this tutorial up into 2 videos, but we'll just click the text property, then we'll change the text property to save data, or just save whatever, and then on button 2 we'll go with exit. Oh whoops, messed that up. Okay, so we'll just delete that, double clicked it by accident. So designer, we'll click button 2. Okay, so button 2, we'll click button 2, yeah, get the bounding box up. Then we'll click text, and we will just erase that. And we'll go with exit. So now we have a save data button and an exit button. So we'll change button 2's name to exit button. We'll change the save data button to save button, or save data button, whatever. I'm going to camel case it. So camel case is when the first letter is lowercase but the rest are capital. Alright, so let's continue on to, that should be all actually. So we have exit button, save data button, we got our text box, label 1, label 2, label 3. Let's change label 3's name to display label. Oh, whoops, did that again, apologize. Alright, so label 3, we'll click it, get up, let's get up, label 3, we'll go with, what do we say, display label, display, so display, and then camel case to label, label 1, let's go with display label. Here we'll go with user input label. So label 1, I'm going to change it to the name or the identifier. I'll change it to user input label, camel cased. Enter. So user input label, display label, labeled, what's this one? One, two, three, okay, 6 different things. Okay, this one will be message label. So label 2, we'll change it to message label. Enter. So camel case again. So this is, that's all fine. So going on to the actual code now and the event handlers. So click the code. I'm actually going to probably skip all this. Let's skip it because we've done it before. It's just going to take too much time. Actually, we could do it. Alright, let's just do it. So we have, so let's, we'll go with a block comment here. Okay, so we'll just go under everything. Actually, no, I'll just, yeah, let's just move it down. Oh, whoops. So we'll go using system semicolon, then we go with, well, so we'll just type all these out using system dot collections dot generic using system dot component model using system dot data using system dot drawing using system, using system dot what did that say there, linq link using system dot text using system dot threading dot tasks using system dot windows dot forms. There we go, not too bad at all. So just a few things to remember there. So then we'll have namespace. We'll create a namespace here, namespace Windows form, I believe has to be the same as the solution name, so Windows Forms App 3, that's the name of mine. Yours might be different. So then we have public partial class form 1. Inherits from form. That, we'll talk about this later with this shift semicolon, or the colon is inherits from. Then we'll have here public form, so this is a constructor, we'll talk about all that coming up. So public form 1. Just like that. We'll call initialize component that method, which is capital. oh no, sorry, there's two empty parentheses with no parameters inside. It's finishing my stuff automatically. Okay, then with a semicolon. So notice in Java we'll have a method, but it'll have the I will be lowercase. And I think that's better because the class name or the namespace should be capital, but I think method should be lowercase. Constructor will be capital because it's referencing the class. But I think Java had it right. Microsoft decided to do that. I guess it's their thing. Someone didn't like it, so obviously they're like, well, we're not going to camel case it because that's Java, so let's make it different. People are going to wonder why it's so similar to Java, but the camel casing is just not there. So pretty much that's the difference. And then obviously they have partial namespace, and then the inheritance is done differently. Because inheritance is done in Java with the extends keyword. So this is Java. Extends. But this is C#. So it's a lot of similarities, but a few differences. So we have, just continuing on. So we'll just have pretty much what else we're going to do here. So let's get into the actual methods. So we'll go with apologize here, running a test on something, it's slowing down my notes, and I lost my notes here. YouTube paused. Okay, so YouTube paused. Continue. Music stopped. I have the music kind of low. Apologize for that. Turn it up a little bit. I have a noise canceling mic, so you won't be able to hear it properly anyways. Alright, so we have public partial class, form 1 inherits from form. We have the constructor. We'll talk about all this later on. This method we call, which sets up the GUI. Then we'll go back to the designer. So read input button, which is, we named it something else, so we named it save data button. So we'll double click that. So save data button, so it automatically generated the code. We can retype it out. I think the thing, actually I'm not sure. I think in Visual Studio when we tried to actually just comment it out, I didn't like that. Let's just try this and see if it works. So we'll go with private void save data button underscore click, takes parameter object sender and event args e. Alright, so we have that. We'll skip the exception here. So then let's just continue on to do something here. So we're going to assign the name entered by the user. We're going to assign the name entered by the user to the output label controls text property. So what's our output label? So we called output label display label. Alright, so let's call our display label so display label dot text property dot its text property. So it tells, you can't see this here, but it says it's a property. Whoops. Wish I had a better recorder. So we have, it's a property, so it's a string property. So it's a property which is a string. That's what it's saying. It changed something. Whoops. This is pretty good. I'm liking Rider. It's pretty good. It's a property string. So it says it's a property which is a string. So it's not a property string. Don't get confused. Apologize. But it's a string property. Pretty much. It's a property which is a string. If that makes better sense. So it's a property that is a string. That's what it's telling me. So then we'll say, okay, we'll display label.text points to, then we'll say, what was name TextBox? So we got TextBox. So yeah, we just call it TextBox. So points to TextBox. And then we'll say TextBox.text. So in this case here, we're saying that display label.text points to the TextBox.text. So I think we already went over that in the beginning. So don't worry about that. So we'll continue on to the exit button. So we'll just find our exit button. We'll double click it. Happened to our text here. So okay, so we actually don't want any text in there right now, so we'll just go with that. So the display label points, so the display label.text points to textbox.text. So then we'll click the exit button. We'll just comment that out. So we'll say private void button 2 dot, button 2 underscore click, and then we'll pass in object sender and then comma event args e. Then we'll say here, we'll call this dot close. So it will close basically. It will close the form or the window at the end. Alright, so let's just save that. Then I'll click the run button in the top right. I believe it's just loading. No, alright, so there's an error here. What happened? Okay. Textbox.text. I might have messed that one up a little bit. Alright, so let me just double check that. So we have textbox output label.text. Or we have in this case display label.text points to, I think we called it textbox, did we not? No, what do we call it? Name textbox. Okay, we called it, TextBox. Oh, I spelled it wrong, I think. T-E-X-T, camel case to B-O-X. Check the code. TextBox.text, okay. What's wrong with that? Dot text. No, sorry, that shouldn't have parentheses on the end. There we go. That should be better. Yeah, that should be fine. What happened here? Okay. Someone else happened here, so it says TextBox 1. Hopefully it doesn't mind that we wrote them out again. Does not contain a definition. TextBox 1 underscore text change. That might be not liking that we did the comments again. So we will go with, so let's actually just copy this here, paste it in here. Then we'll delete this one. Then we'll copy this here, this dot close, paste it in there. It's kind of silly that it's doing that. We'll just go with it, so hopefully this works. If not, we'll have to restart the whole thing. So just uncomment all this. Okay. Try that. Does that fix it? Nope, still doesn't like it. Okay. Let's get rid of these. Missing a using directive. Don't think so. Unless I didn't like the fact that we took these out as well. Let me just paste these here. Let me just check my my code again. So we got here, we have, no, it's not showing me that. Okay, so we got namespace, Windows Forms app, public partial class, form 1. Here's some form, okay, public form 1 initialize component, private void, we got all that, display label.text. Unless I spelled something wrong here. Okay, so we got our label. So we got, this is user input label. Okay, so we got user input label. We didn't need that, so what we needed was the output label, which is what we called display label. Okay, so display label. So in that case, we're saying, okay, well, display label dot text points to TextBox dot text. And private void, is there maybe just something wrong with these? Let me just delete these here. It's not letting me delete this. Okay, hopefully that works. Is that what the problem was? No. I think it's because I deleted it or something and got confused, so let's just copy this. Is it not letting me delete these? Okay, let's delete this. Save data button. Okay, let's go to the designer, save data button, click it. Comment that out. Then we'll copy this dot close, delete that. Oops, delete that. Then we'll go with the designer. Exit button. This dot close. We will run that now. Hopefully it works. No. 47. This extra stuff here. Oh, you know what? Maybe some of the tabs are tabbed out, or commented out. No. No. What is the problem here? Save? Maybe I had to save it first. Alright, so what is the problem? Text changed. Am I missing something in this code? No. So public partial class form 1 inherits from form. We got that. What is the problem here? I might have to actually make this a part 2 to figure out what's going on and add it to the rest of the video. If I can't figure this out. TextBox 1. Okay, where's TextBox 1? These things keep getting... Okay, there we go. TextBox 1. We don't have a TextBox 1. Oh, you know what? No. Save data button underscore click, and we got button 2 underscore click. Could be the name here. So definition for an argument of type form 1 cannot be found. Are you missing a directives Or an assembly reference. No. That's not helpful at all. It could be because we changed the names and there's a glitch. That could be it. This is not great at all. Might have to redo it actually with the default names if there's a problem with the design window. And the names. Save data button underscore click. Am I missing a parameter? Object center. Event args e. No? Private void read input label underscore click. Object sender. Output label dot text. In this case we have display label dot text. Points to TextBox dot text. And we just called TextBox TextBox. Yep. Display label. That is really silly. Alright guys, so let me just probably just take some look at it for a little bit to see what's happening here. I might have missed, it could be something to do with the .net version. Could be that. But it should be working, so I might just take some time to look at it, and I will compile these two videos together so it all looks like one video. So just give me a sec and I'll see you guys back in a sec. Thanks.